Today is a very special day. Yeah! I'm one of the first people in the UK, maybe even the world, to drive the i8, BMW's brand new plug-in hybrid sports car. This feels right. That's not a brag, that's just how important this thing is, how topical, how new, how fresh. I'm excited. See, if we believe the hype, then this thing combines the performance of a Porsche 911 with the fuel economy of a Toyota Prius and the eco-friendliness of a Nissan Leaf. It's the holy grail. It sounds like something from the future, except it's right here, it's available right now, and I've got the keys. Now, my natural instinct is to jump in, stand on the pedal, and see what this thing's all about. But I'm gonna savor this one. I'm gonna talk you through everything, front to back, talk you through the design process, the architecture, and actually, screw it. I feel like a kid on Christmas Day. Let's rip this thing open. Yes, yes, this feels right, definitely. All right, let me tell you about the engine. So what we're working with is mounted at the back, a 1.5 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine powering the rear wheels. And that produces 231 horsepower. Sounds rubbish, but it's not on its own. Up front, we have an electric motor, and that gives an additional 131 horsepower powering the front wheels. Okay, for a car that's supposed to be the future, you might say that's not that impressive. But Marty McFly was from the future, and he wasn't that impressive on paper either, until you made him mad. Total power is 326 horsepower, 0 to 62 in 4.4 seconds. It feels every inch the sports car. As for the noise, well, I wasn't really expecting much. I wasn't expecting anything, to be honest. This is, you know, the equivalent of a high-performance Prius, but it's actually pretty decent. Think of it as a sort of muted V6 noise. It's a little bit fake. A lot of that noise is actually generated through a speaker. But I don't really care. It sounds exciting. What's most impressive about the way this car drives, I think, is the torque. The petrol motor only generates 360 Newton meters from quite high up in the rev range, 3,700 RPM. But the electric motor generates 250 from 0 RPM. So you get instant pull every single time. The transmission, now that's interesting. Basically, the petrol motor is connected to the rear wheels via a 6-speed automatic, and the electric motor is connected to the front via a 2-speed automatic. It's not actually that great, not compared to BMW's 8-speed semi-automatic dual-clutch transmission. You control it via the flappy paddles behind the steering wheel, and it gives you the gears you want most of the time, but it's not quite as responsive as you might expect. Handling, the steering wheel's a little bit light for my taste, but you can work with it. You can actually feel a lot of what's going on beneath you. It feels really well planted most of the time, and even if it's about to lose grip, it still communicates that feeling. Suspension-wise, it's good, not too stiff, pretty much no body roll in the corners. It's a sports car first and foremost, but it's the kind of car that I think in a city, around rutted roads, you could probably live with this thing every day. One of the things I was worried about most before I got into this car was the brakes. In the BMW i3, their electric city car, the minute you come off the accelerator pedal, you get quite a violent braking reaction when the regenerative braking system kicks in. But in this, you don't get that. You lift off, and it's almost like it's not an electric car. It feels exactly like a sports car should. In terms of stopping power, well, it's confidence inspiring. Maybe this car's only weakness, I would say, is when you're pushing really hard in the bends, it doesn't give you the same amount of grip as you might find in like a Porsche 911. And that's mainly because it's using relatively skinny tires. And that means that when you're pushing hard into a corner, you can really hear the tires squeal as they give up the grip when you need it most. It never feels dangerous. It just feels like you can't push it quite as hard as some of its rivals. And for those of you thinking, yeah, just apply a bootload of throttle and get the tail end out, you can't really do that in this car. It feels more like a precision instrument, a scalpel instead of a hammer. The i8 has several driving modes. Sport, which I've just demonstrated is a lot of fun, and there's also comfort, which gives you a good balance of performance and efficiency. In comfort mode, the electric motor doesn't work quite as hard to fill in those gaps and propel you from A to B as savagely as it might in sport. The throttle response is eased off a little bit, so it's not quite as eager to accelerate if your foot goes anywhere near the go pedal. Also, the steering's a little lighter than it was. It's already pretty light, but it gets feather light when you put it into comfort. If you're on a road trip, that's the mode you want. With that engaged, you can travel in this car for up to 375 miles. The all-electric driving mode, it can go from batshit crazy performance car to super quiet, super efficient electric car at the press of a button. I'll just hit the eDrive button down here, and suddenly I'm running on batteries only. It's got a 7.1 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack mounted along the transmission tunnel, and that will give you 23 miles of driving if you're careful with how you push this car. It'll even drive up to 75 miles an hour in electric only mode. Finally, you can drive your £100,000 sports car to work and no one will hate you because you're saving the planet. The BMW i8 is one hell of a car. Not perfect. In my eyes, it's definitely not the most rewarding of sports cars. If you're a hooligan, then you're better off looking elsewhere. I'd say it's the automotive equivalent of a really nice salad to the Porsche 911 or Audi R8's fat, juicy steak. It'll get the job done, but for the ultimate in thrills, the grease merchants still have the edge. Where the i8 wipes the floor with its opposition is in the sheer breadth of its capability. It can do 90% of what they can, but it does it in a more sophisticated, intelligent, and modern manner. It's a car for all occasions, transforming from angry sports car to sensible hybrid to serene electric runabout at the push of a button. It's an amazing technological feat, but also an amazing car to drive, way ahead of the curve, and certain to set trends for a long time to come. They've installed a couple of electronic valves right in front of the silencer box in the exhaust, and they open up to let everybody know you're coming. It doesn't sound quite as good as the old V8, but it still sounds awesome.